Hi! What's up? Welcome to my tube, my tiny little tube. My name is Margie. I am a Heyoka empath. I like to have these talks on how I feel about things. It's been a rough few days for me. The full moon was in Taurus, and that is a very unfamiliar energy to me. So it could always go either way with how that feels. And it didn't feel so good this time. For about 3 days, solid. Best way I could describe how I feel is, you know, those 9-volt batteries with the two little round parts on the top. When we were younger, you test them by touching them to your tongue. Well, pretty much my whole body felt like a tongue on a 9-volt battery. I don't have any Taurus. I have no Taurus. So Taurus are fascinating to me, and it's also an earth sign. So, and I don't have earth in my chart. So I'm curious about it, but I have so many other placements that just make it a very ungrounding experience. So I feel better. I had a massage. I feel so much better. What I do is I talk about things that are bothering me in my massage. And because when you get a massage, you're getting gases, you're getting all the toxins, all the stuff you think about make you feel bad. All the anger, all the hurt, all the rage. It just collects in our soul sacs. And then people think about things that make them sad. They want to do things that make them feel better, but they usually chose the easier, softer way. And there's consequences to that. There's consequences to going the long way too. It's just whatever your path is. Yeah, I don't know who watches my video. I don't know who's out there. I speak in matters of facts based on my life events, and then people out there align with things that I say, and I don't even know who they are or whatever. Then they get mad at me because they align themselves with things that I say based on my life experience, and that's okay. I do it too. I'm not above these things. Shoot, man. The older I get, I figure out the freaking dumber I am. Really. You know, you think you know stuff, and then stuff comes along and says, nope, that ain't true. So I'm listening to this song right now called What's Up. The song originally came out. What year did it come out? I looked it up. 1992. That was the year I graduated high school. And I had some buddy. I could talk about him because he's since died. His name's Johnny McGarity. He grew up in Redding, California. I met him because he was a young bright dude. God, man, that guy, he had the craziest blue eyes too, man. Everybody loved Johnny. Everybody loved Johnny. He was just nice to everybody. Like, I knew his whole family, his older brother. He had a twin brother, a sister, and he liked to play, you know, he was a big guy. He kind of, you know, he loved the Grateful Dead, stuff like that, and you always knew that he knew stuff. He was just a real old soul. And there was this one time he was in a band and he got invited to play at this show, and I was friends with him, and somehow I ended up at this show, and it was like in a backyard, and there's only maybe 15, 20 people there. It was a private event. And they start with What's Up. It's not. They start with they start the song What's Up by Four Non Blondes. And it's golden hour, and he's grokking out, you know, they're playing, they lead up to it, and it was beautiful. I got a beer in my hand. I'm just like, man, like every crappy thing I ever went through when I was a kid, oh well, because this is what being an adult is, right? Well, fast forward about 5 years, I go back home after I get out of basic training in the year 2000. And I go back to, my old friend. I've been out of touch with them for a couple years because I've been in Sacramento. I've been around. I've been trying to sort out my life. My grandpa died. Like, all this weird stuff happened. And then I got word that Johnny died. And this song came on in my ear this morning. And I was picturing that. Because I do that sometimes. I'll picture a place, and I watch all the people that are there, and I'm soaking up how they're feeling, And then I was wondering today how Johnny's doing. And if that's his heaven. Because it's kind of a little bit of peace of mind, And we're only on this planet for such a freaking short time, dude. And people think that we live forever. Well, we kind of do. Energy doesn't die. Our last breath is our soul continuing the story. And so, people have good times like that. And then they want to keep reliving those good times. And I take that good time and I carry it in my heart. And sometimes I look back on that for reference. And I continue on my trajectory in life. And I travel around and I see other people that they're just living the same year over and over and over. They're living the same experiences over and over and over. And sometimes that messes with their perception of reality based on what they're doing in living these years over and over. I can't even manage to stay in the same place. I try. I just want to not have to move around any freaking more. That's all. I just want. We have been nomads, pretty much. There is a time. I did own a house in Omaha, 2331 North 63rd Street. It's sold upside down in a hot market. How do you explain it? You can't. So, but I made it was like I imagined what I wanted a home to be in our freaking. Dude, I had a shitty upbringing. I have a horrific upbringing. And I talk about it here. I don't want to talk about it here today. I just want to show people that people can live through hell without perpetuating and creating more hell on earth. Because the only reasons, I know this, I speak from experience, the only reasons why there are wars on this planet is because grown-ass men feel like tiny little bitches and have conflict within themselves, with the feminine energy within themselves. And that is the only reason why we have wars on this planet. Boom! Done. That's it. That's it. It's because men see on TV what men are supposed to be, big, strong, and then they end up beating their wives. Frickin', I mean, I live in New Mexico. You name it, it happens in this state. It's a freaking weird ass place because it's the only thing that it's number one in is people doing whatever they feel like. So they drink too much, they do too many drugs, and then they think about stuff that happened when they were a kid that they were mad about and they were powerless, and then they take that hurt from back then and then they bring it right here into this present moment. But nobody around you was with you back then. But you get mad at these people. Why? They weren't there. But you bring your hurt, and that's what alcohol does. It makes people travel through different timelines. So when you're dealing with things, with people, entities that are getting loaded all the time. I'm not talking about the occasional drinker. I'm talking about the loadies all the time, the people just chasing sensations, stuff like that. Just, you don't do nothing to add to society, you never help an old lady change her tire or mow an old man's lawn or do anything to take yourself out of your everyday wonderful glory existence to go be of service to anybody else. Like, remember when people get sick? I used to be in recovery in AA. People get sick and they'd have meal trains for people. Groups of people would sign up. Well, you're sad, whatever. Let's bring you food. Let's get you through this, right? I had a surgery. I couldn't do weight bearing for 7 days. I had the Brostrom procedure on my ankle. The typical was like a week. I got like 3 days. Hey Tanya, what's up? How you doing? How's life in Tennessee? I'm trying to picture the map. I see the town. It's right up by the border, but I can't remember the state. Because I haven't been there. I haven't been to Tennessee. I've only flown into Austin. Or, not Austin. Nashville. I only flew into Nashville once on my way to Florida, I think. So like I don't know the states, and I know California and Oregon and Washington and Nebraska and New Mexico. Well, northern, not all of New Mexico. I haven't been any place, but I've been around quite a bit of northern New Mexico because I drive a lot. I want to see with my own eyes what they say is on the map, because I don't believe the map makers. It's just another tool of manipulation. But anyway, I never perceive the world as everyone else does, but it seems, Tanya, that other people are kind of starting to perceive the world like I do. So that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Who knows? I don't know. This is funny. Oh, this song right here. I looked up my name one time in terms of music, and there's this song called My Little Margie. Is it My Little Margie? Or is it just Margie? I guess it's just Margie, but it was big in the jazz era. It's been done so many times. My Little Margie. Headstrong Margie Albright gets into mischief trying to protect her handsome widowed father. Oh, My Little Margie from the theme song. But it was they did it before that. It first aired in 1952. I used to watch it, but my dad was a jerk, so I'm like, I wasn't into it. I'm like, why did she worship that guy so much? That's bizarre to me. That's weird. So, anyway, what's up? That song that I was talking about a little while ago. I always think it's called What's Going On, but it's called What's Up by Four Non Blondes. Anyway, the lyrics are so poignant too. Because things, when you live in cycles, things don't evolve. That's the best thing I got out of being in AA was the idea of rotation of service. That you held service positions, but you only held them for 2 years. The max was 5 years. And then somebody else goes in. Because when you leave people like they have in Congress for so many years, it gets stagnant because people don't evolve in spirit when they're stuck, and they get control hungry, power hungry, and then it's not for everybody. It's more about them. And so, but these lyrics are so poignant. So many years later, it's been 92. How many years has that been? 33 years since I graduated high school. 25 years, and my life is still trying to get up that big hill of hope for a destination. I realized quickly, when I knew I should, that this world was made up of this brotherhood of man. For whatever that means. So when I cry sometimes when I'm lying in bed just to get it all out what's in my head, and I'm feeling a little peculiar. And so when I wake in the morning and I step outside and I take a deep breath and I get real high and I scream from the top of my lungs, what's going on? Because that's pretty much, the same year over and over, but now look where we are. The fraternal brotherhood of butt stuff is collapsing society. The men has fucked everything up. They're allowed in locker rooms with women that beat their wives. I always knew the creep was protected because I've been bullied and beat up. That's why I learned how to defend myself and to protect myself from my own brother, my own father. It's how I know what a monster is. I came from monsters. I just did whatever I could not to turn into one myself. Even after my country gave me 8 anthrax vaccines. 8! Everybody else got 3 because they tested the COVID vax on us. And that's why they rolled it out so fast. It took me a little while to figure it out. But when I started seeing how people started acting 5 years after they got the vaccine, I went back in my memory bank and I said, Marge, remember 5 years after they gave you those 8 anthrax vaccines, in 8 months you got 2 at a time. Boom! Double shot. How you started feeling this inside, this percolation, and you didn't know what it was, so you would put feelings like frustration and anger, and because you didn't know what it was, but what it really is powerlessness. You didn't know what the fuck was going on with you, and your country poisoned you. You became a military fucking experiment, and all you wanted to do was go to college to get a job to take care of your mom. Isn't that weird? That we sign up to do things to better our lives so our lives can be fucking ruined, and then people want us to have a parade and do bullshit like Veterans Day. Fuck Veterans Day. I'm sorry for my service. I don't want a fucking free meal. I want America to stop fucking bombing people in places we have no business. I want every soldier in Africa and all these lands that they want to, see the world. You know what? You fuck the world. Come back here, clean up your fucking mess, and then maybe you won't need to spend $58 million on Viagra every year, because real men don't fucking need Viagra. Real men can see their feet without a mirror. Real men don't beat women. Real men don't want to be women. Real men take care of their family. They take care of their family. Real men do, Jerry Hessick. They take care of their family because it's the right thing to do. Even if you don't like them, even if they were the biggest fucking... Well, no. That's not true. Drugs, alcohol omitted. Yeah, but like Mom never drank. Mom never did drugs. Nope. Our childhood wasn't hard because Mom drank and did alcohol because she wanted to escape her. Nope. She almost broke her brain because she was right there with us, present, until she couldn't be. Because the psyche can only take so much. And I'm sure she grew up thinking that society would, that she wasn't ever going to be a single mom with 2 kids. It's fighting the whole system. You know what fighting the whole system means? That means that my father was in a position of advantage and power, and they made life hell on her, which made life difficult, very much so, for me and my brother. And he went the way of the gate program, in the way of the ego, and I went in the way of the spirit. Because the things that I chose to do. One thing that people don't know about me is that I love to sing. I love to sing. I might not be very good at it. I love to sing. I don't care. I try. It's frequency, it's vibration, and then when I was in speech class, because I had a speech impediment when I was a little girl, my teacher would teach me things like I would have to exercise my face. I would have to exercise my face before I started speech class, because a lot of speech has to do with the muscles in your face. There's so many things that people don't think about the human body. How many people know the size of your heart is your fist? How many people know the size of your stomach is 2 fists? And then I see people eating 2-pound burritos. So you're taking the amount of food and you're putting that in a space that's the size of 2 fists. And then they get ulcerative colitis or whatever. They get some disease that's going to debilitate them for the rest of their life because they don't know that they put this much food in a space of 2 fists. And then they hurt themselves. And then people stretch their stomachs out. I did this. This is how I know. This is how I used to be. I was almost 200 pounds and it wasn't muscle. It was a whole lot of hurt for years and years and years. And I drink every day. I drink at least a 12 pack every day. There's maybe a week in there for a year and a half that I didn't I can't drink today kind of thing. Like maybe a week and a year and a half that I did not drink a 12 pack of beer every single day. Now, granted, it was white boy beer. It was Bud Light, you know. But the thing of it is that I started to notice that the amount of alcohol I was drinking, it varied based on thank you. I see you. I know. There are so many real men out there. That's the thing. Is like I see them, and if they're balanced, they'll engage with me. If they are not imbalanced, we don't engage because they feel inferior. Because here I show up with all my masculine energy, about killing myself, taking care of my family, and it's not even wife and kids, it's mom and dog. So, these freaking clowns, they can't feed their kids, so they got to go to SNAP benefits and stuff like that, get mad at me because I take care of mine. But why don't you learn how to take care of yours like I had to learn to take care of mine? They just get mad and, tell me I just haven't met the right man. And I had a flash the other day about my military days about a dude because I don't think like this. Like, I don't think like this is illegal, right? I just think like I went out drinking with my buddy and he took me down by the river and tried to get fresh. And he was in the military with me. I'm not going to say his name. I worked with him in the Air Force. He got kicked out after I did for a DUI. So he left. And he was married with kids. See, so how did that get through MEPS? You'd be surprised all the shit that gets through MEPS. The gay while away, that's a whole thing. They go TDY, I'm busting out, I bust out, blowing whistles all over the place. TDY, understand when your mom or dad goes over there and it's anywhere in proximity to a hazardous duty station, to a hazardous environment, and understand we're the hazard. Okay. We go over there, we're the hazard, and then we pay ourselves hazardous duty pay and tax-free that pay. So you don't have to pay no taxes on that. So not all Americans pay taxes. Soldiers over there, they don't pay taxes on shit. Don't you get that we are being fucking raped and pillaged for this stuff? So they can play a game and they can talk this word and that word. And it's like, I don't fucking care about what you are. I don't care about your nationality. I don't care about what land you're. I don't care about none of that. I care about what people do with what they are. That's what matters to me. And most people just stay up, shut in their house, watching TV. Think, oh, I want to do this. I'm going to go out and do that. And they come back and they think about all the other things they want to do. And they travel so fast and so far. My brother was just in South America for the 5th time, but he couldn't travel to New Mexico to see his mom, But he's been to New Mexico. He came to New Mexico when we were in Arizona, but he can't be bothered. I can't make, this world don't make sense because the people that run it have no soul. And if you read, I don't believe in any one religion. I've been researching all sorts of religions my whole life because I'm trying to find a place where I can fit in. And then I go to these religions and I see the weird stuff like they do, and I'm like, I don't want to fucking be a part of that. Like, I went to this church when I was probably 7, 8 years old for Halloween. I didn't even want to do Halloween anymore. Because they had a haunted house, and I had a problem with that. Why is there a haunted house in a church? That doesn't make sense to me. And then you walk down into the, basement, and there's a kid on the table, and he was older than me. He was like 12, maybe 13. He was like a teenager, like a young teen, but he was older than me, but not a grown-up. And he was laying on a table, and he had on his stomach like spaghetti noodles, and then they had like sauce or red stuff, so it looked like his entrails. You came down and he'd be like, he was writhing, he's like, ugh. I'm like, why is this in a church? And I was 8 years old. I didn't want to go there anymore. See, because when you've reached the elevation of terror, which to me is what do they call it? In clinical terms, they call it when you disassociate. When you disassociate, see, our spirits, our souls are precious. When we come into this, as a baby, it's a precious thing, and then people put things in it to make it less precious, but it's still precious. And so, so the kids are closer to source. That's why I love seeing all this social media where kids we're talking about like the angels and stuff like that, because they see in frequency, because they haven't listened, they haven't been tuned into earth yet, to the 3D. No, you don't see that. Okay, I don't see that. It's just standing right there, like people can see potentials and energies. This is just something how it is. But the ones that want to profit from doing nothing, they'll say, no, that's not real, and then they'll make rules, regulations, policies, and procedures to so that if anybody acts in these ways that somebody over here says that isn't real, even though they might even be benefiting from the woo-woo, they could be, benefit, doing their dark magic. I grew up in Reading. Everybody knew about Lost Lanes. Everybody knew about Lost Lanes. You know where Lost Lanes was in proximity? It was right beneath the Mason Lodge. That I was in a ritual in one time. But see, I was this little girl that like didn't like wearing dresses and stuff. And the ritual with the Rainbow Girls, you have to wear like big hoop dresses and go, and it was so weird. It was such a weird little thing. I'm like, I don't want to do this. This is weird. See, and because I disassociated the first time as a 10-month-old baby because of what happens to me. I read the police report when I was 12 years old on the account. What happened to me when I was a 10-month-old baby. And I thought, why does mom have this report about this little baby girl? And what does penetration mean? And then I thought, oh my God, that's me. That's why my hip pops. Oh, okay. I always wondered why my hip popped when PE teacher would make us do those bicycle exercises, right? So that's the first time I disassociated. Then a few years later, I disassociated when I almost drowned in Whiskeytown Lake. Then I almost disassociated a couple years later when my brother slammed my head into the ground when he beat me up because he turned on me. He turned on me. You ever see anybody turn on you? Like they leave themselves, I don't even walk in proximity at the grocery store within arm's length to anybody. And I'll make that shit obvious. Like if a fucking man, like there's no reason I'm getting my butter and a man needs to come up and stand right next to me. Ever. And that shit happens all the time because they just like to, impose their will. Anybody know what autonomy means? I learned about that in AA too. That means you can't make people do anything. Is that we're born with free will. We can guide people. We can direct them. Like, the best thing mom taught me about is consequences of my actions. Sure, you can do that. I said, but mom, we have free will. We're in America. We can do it. Okay, I understand that if you do that, there are consequences to you doing that. And she would never get me out of my she would always let me have my consequences. I almost did not graduate high school because she did that. Plus, she had a traumatic injury. A dude slammed her head in a car door. She was fighting for her own life for several years. Like, cracked her skull. Yet I was supposed to put her in a home. The soulless, man. The soulless. So weird. So I went yesterday and got some Indian food. Lady in town makes it. It's good rice. It's expensive rice. It's a good rice. So I'm starting to think about that. I gotta start thinking about things to do with my time, because my time has shifted. Because the stuff I had it ain't there no more. And I can't just sit and think about how sad I am about things that are gone. So I gotta keep moving. So I'm starting to picture how to do a build out for the back of my Suburban, so I can put a kitchen in and have big old pull out drawers and put my generator in there. That thing's $9,200, man. I can charge all kinds of phones. Just freaking turn it up, charge your shit, charge all your electronics. It's on me. Sorry for my service. Hey, what do you guys want today? You guys want Chinese food? You want some? What do you want? You want some homegrown vegetables? You know, what anything you can get in the restaurant, I'll make for you for right here. All right? Because we gotta bring up the bottom people, the people on the bottom, because I know I've been there, and all I needed is somebody to come out and tell me, you know what? This world don't suck all the way. I went into Family Dollar yesterday. Store looked good. I noticed that. I worked night shift at a Rite Aid. I spent all night for 9 months facing shelves every night, overnight. You know, you see the worst of the worst at night, and but the lights are bright, so whatever. And so I told the kid that worked behind the register, I said, you know what? I said, store looks good. He stopped and he looked at me. And he just stopped. And he's like, what? I said, no. I said, the store, it looks good. I said, whatever you're doing a good job. I said, don't let nobody tell you different. And he said, he literally took a step back. I don't think anybody in that young man's whole 20, 30 years of being on this planet has ever told him he was doing a good job. So he boasted up. I said, take that as a compliment. I said, but don't let that fill up your pride bag, because pride ain't a good thing. Too many people have too much pride. You get pride in something and you think that thing, you have so much pride in that, and pride gets like covered up and veiled, and that can't do any wrong. And then when it does get wrong, people want to protect it because they don't want to think that something that they have their pride in could go so astray. So I'm not big on pride. I've done 2,600 videos, and I think maybe one time I slipped, maybe, and then like I was like, oh wait, you just said you're prideful. But you won't hear me say, you won't go back all the way 7, 8 years and hear me say, I'm proud of stuff. Oh, I'm so prideful. I'm so proud. Pride is a waste of freaking resources. People have flags for that. Like, they have parades. They do all kinds of useless stuff in the name of pride. You know, they have they don't, and it denounces, it removes culpability. When people are prideful, they think they can do no wrong. So that ain't a vibe I do. But that kid, I made his whole day though. It was cool. I gave him one of my stickers a while ago. He said, I actually moved up from the store down south where he came from, because he took pride in his work, but everybody around him wouldn't. So he came up to this store, but he still mostly does all the work. And I said, you know what? I said, never change that. Never change that. That is your work ethic, and that is exactly what makes you who you are. So you hang on to that. You be the asshole. Always be that, because I am always that. I was an asshole when I was in the military. 9/11 happened. Because I was like, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? They're gonna make some bullshit, so we go to war. What are they gonna do? And then they did 9/11. And now, how many years later, people still think a man in a cave did it? But that perpetuates. Hey, when I was growing up, it was the Arabs. How come you don't hear Arabs anymore? Because they changed the story. You want to know why? Because DC and Hollywood, they're the same. They have the same monstrous, colossal, retarded budgets. Both DC and Hollywood exist to get people to create the contrived reality based on their minds and their psyche. More of reality is created in imagination than it is in the tangibles. I love how more people are starting to see like pyramids in Montana. I got a theory I ain't never heard nobody talk about because I grew up in Redding, California, the armpit. But right there was Mount Shasta. And Mount Shasta is the Earth's first chakra. And I broke open my first chakra. I literally broke my coccyx on Mount Shasta. The first and only time I ever went snowboarding. And I hurt myself so bad, I thought that snowboarding and skiing was just the dumbest thing that any... If the potential exists to cause so much pain, and I did it the first time, why would anybody want to do that ever? I couldn't sit down for... Like, I had to sit side... It's the worst thing. It sucks to break your coccyx. So... Mount Shasta, my thing is, I think Mount Shasta was a pyramid. And the reason why I say that, because if you look at it from an aerial view, it looks like the same color of pyramids, like stone rocks. It doesn't look like the terrain around it that's all green and lush and stuff like that. Anyway, and then plus they have like two other little mountains right by it. Mount Shastina, is right next to it, and it looks like a pyramid. And they say that it was like a little mound, and then all of the ash, when last time Mount Shasta erupted, like landed on Lake Shasta, or the Mount Shastina. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. That's why I failed history when I was in high school. Because I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. I would just question everything. And people that want other people to live a narrative hate me because I rationally give explanations because of my chart, man. My horoscope today. I get this stuff all the time because I don't want to know stuff. I just want to be a regular person. I don't want to know shit. But my deep diver even says, as a Pisces Venus, you have a rare ability to see beyond the surface realities into the emotional depths. I see people's behavior. Michael, the peace dealer, even said so on my reading. If you go back over on his page and look up reading for a Heyoka, that's me. It's on my, I think I share it on my page too every now and again. This profound sensitivity can lead you to lose yourself in relationships. That's why I don't have them. You can now bond deeply while still maintaining your own sense of self. Intimate connections and individual wholeness are possible. That's okay. It's not my priority. Oh, I feel so much better after I got a bunch of toxins out yesterday after my massage. I said, could you work on my stomach? My stomach hurts. Then she did some healing therapy. That was cool. So she worked on my stomach. I said, yeah. So I was 42. So I was 9 years ago. I had an 8-pack stomach. I had an 8-pack. And I was always overweight and pudgy because I hold my weight because weight is emotion, and I hold it in. And then I started speaking my truth, and whoop! Look what happened. That's so bad for an old lady. And so she was working on my, and I looked in the mirror one time and I was like, holy shit, and I counted, I was like, one, because I always heard about those things. I always heard about six-pack abs, but that ain't nothing Marge is ever gonna have. Then I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a fucking 8-pack, holy hell. Of course, my car got repoed. Every 2-3 days I was walking to the market with my A-bag on my back, buying bags of dog food. So I was freaking getting workouts and groceries and stuff like that because I didn't have no car. But I said, yeah, I don't know what's under there anymore because now I'm in menopause. She's like, oh, she's like, you have a lot of muscle. And I was like, really? I can't tell under all the gushy gush. And she's like, no, you've got a lot of muscle. I was like, right on. Cool. Because one day I'm going to stop. One day I'm never going to pick up another weight ever again. And then that's when the decline happens. I'm fighting for dear life, huh, Ma? You getting ready to wake up, sweet lady?
Yes.
You know how much I love you?
Yes.
Alrighty. I guess that's about it. I've been yammering on long enough. I think I said everything I want to say. I started talking about how much I love to sing. Even though it doesn't sound good in other people's ears, it's very therapeutic to me. I'm boisterous. I sing from my diaphragm like my speech teacher taught me. And so I'm loud, and I have this deep voice because I smoked for so many years, and sometimes I even puff on the flower every now and again. But I sang a song to Mom this morning that I used to sing when I was in junior high. I was in chorus because I wanted to not sing like a man. It was a song written by a woman named Amanda McBroom. But it was sang by a broad named Bette Midler. I saw Bette Midler in concert once. Back when I lived on 3D Earth. The Rose. Such a pretty song. It's such a hard song to sing for me because the words don't make sense. I always got the words backwards because why isn't it showing the lady who wrote it? I'll look it up later. Anyway, what's my horoscope today? Jupiter, okay, square natal Jupiter and transitioning Mercury. No squares! No squares! I'm gonna go eat me another piece of caramel. I ain't be squaring off today for nothing. Even though you feel an urgency to share your ideas and thoughts, you find communication difficulty and clunky. Keep all the things in perspective and remain focused. Alright, that's about all I got for now. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you have a rad day. Peace.